Have you ever stopped to wonder how our planet's incredible array of life forms came to be? It's truly fascinating to think about the complex processes that have shaped our biodiversity over time. Just like how we are all remarkably distinct from each other despite being part of the same species. Speciation is a process through which new species are created, or different reproductive isolating mechanisms lead to the development of new species. So why is it a thing?
Speciation is a vital factor in maintaining the biodiversity on our planet. The emergence of new species through changes within isolation, which allows them to adapt and thrive in different environmental conditions, thus sustaining the life cycle on our planet.
But how does it happen?
Changes take a considerable amount of time to occur. These changes were typically induced by several mechanisms, and one of these mechanisms is the reproductive isolating mechanism. The reproductive isolating mechanism involves the barriers, or hindrances that prevent a species from interbreeding. The divergence of the population leads to the subsequent formation of new species. This mechanism consists mainly of prezygotic and post-zygotic isolations. Speciation also has its modes of isolation. Allopatric isolation refers to the geographical seclusion of a part of the population where they can develop separately. Sympatric isolation, on the other hand, doesn't seclude the population with location. The isolation itself happens within the population's vicinity. It may be induced by internal factors or within the population's genetic identity.
Back to the types of reproductive isolation, we have prezygotic isolation. Prezygotic isolation refers to the hindrances that prevent species from mating or fertilizing eggs. This means this happened before the fertilization of the zygote. First, we have geographic or habitat isolation. This isolation separates species in terms of their habitat and topography.
Just like manatees, where Amazonian manatees live in the rivers of the Amazon, while African manatees live in the coastal areas of West Africa. The difference can be illustrated in the map shown. And with this, they are considered to be in the mode of allopatric isolation.
Then, we have temporal or seasonal isolation. Species may have different mating timing according to the time of the day and season.
For instance, Rafflesia is considered the world's largest bloom, where their flowering duration only lasts a few days, which limits their interaction with potential pollinators to a specific time. Rafflesia can also be isolated allopatrically or sympatrically, and relies on flies for pollination, where flowers can be reached near or afar.
Next, we have behavioral isolation. As its name implies, each species may also vary in behaviors, rituals, and preferences. These characteristics aren't rare in animals where females may choose or males compete with each other for mates.
Just like how octopus utilize their chromatophores to change their color and texture to attract mates, while other species such as blanket octopus may perceive it as a threat. Common octopus and blanket octopus both live in the Atlantic Ocean. This isolation proves that they are sympatrically isolated.
Then, we have mechanical isolation. Some species may have structural differences that can eventually lead to incompatibility in their reproductive organs due to changes over time.
Similar to barnacles, acorn and striped barnacles have major differences in the structure of their reproductive organs, which prevents them from reproducing. They also can both have sympatric and allopatric isolation. Barnacles are found in harbors and ship hulls, often isolated in the same or different harbors.
Lastly, we have gametic isolation. In this isolation, the incompatibility of gametes hinders the fertilization of the egg.
This is comparable to mangroves. These trees rely upon the wind and water to pollinate seeds that need to reach female flowers. Female mangroves have specific molecular recognition of male pollen of the same species. Chemical signaling guides pollen to the ovule, and the difference in chemical signals along with receptors leads to isolation. Bakawan lalaki and Bakawan bato, which can specifically be found in the Philippine coastal estuaries, are planted in the same brackish waters, suggesting that they're both sympatrically isolated.
And now, for the second reproductive isolation, postzygotic isolation.
Postzygotic isolation refers to the hindrance to the species that prevents them from developing a normal species where it is viable and fertile. This means this happens after fertilization when the zygote is already formed.
First, we have hybrid inviability. Even after the zygote is formed, the organism will have reduced viability, limiting its ability to mature into a fit adult. Just like the sheep and goats, where genetic incompatibility leads to the isolation of both species, the difference in chromosomal number leads to the developmental challenges of the embryo. Next, we have a hybrid breakdown. It is where the offspring are born healthy, but the preceding generations will decrease in viability and fitness.
With the example of beefalo was seen to successfully reproduce for some generations. However, hybrid breakdown was observed later in the next generations, which forced breeders to breed cattle and buffalo again.
The same with sunflowers. Hybrid from common and swamp sunflowers seems perfectly fine. However, hybrids tend to wither faster than usual. Since they can't reproduce, they're considered defective.
Thanks for watching.